make scrambled eggs for breakfast and dropped it into the soapy water. Whoosh! Several bubbles floated into the air. One landed on Rachel's nose. Pop! She giggled and wiped it away, then started scrubbing the frying pan. The rumble of buggy wheels and the clip-clop of a horse's hooves pulled Rachel's gaze back to the window. When the horse and buggy came to a stop near the barn, Uncle Ben stepped down, followed by Aunt Irma and Rachel's cousins, Mary, Nancy, Abe, and Sam. Rachel saw Mom drop a towel into the laundry basket and hurry over to greet them. Grandpa set his shovel aside and headed toward Uncle Ben's buggy. Pap and Henry put their tools down and joined them. Jacob stopped chasing after Buddy and headed that way too. Rachel scoured the frying pan once more and quickly dried it and her hands before putting it away. Then she flung open the back door and raced outside. "What a surprise! I didn't know you were coming over today," she called to Mary. "Woof, woof." Buddy raced around the side of the house, leaped into the air, and slurped his wet tongue across Rachel's chin. "Yuck! Your breath is bad." She pushed Buddy down with her knee. "Get away from me, bad breath, Buddy." Buddy whimpered and slunk toward the barn with his tail between his legs. Rachel hurried over to Mary, but when Mary turned to face her, she wasn't smiling. We came to give you some news," she said. Rachel looked over at her cousins, Nancy, Abe, and Sam. They weren't smiling either. Only Uncle Ben and Aunt Irma were smiling. "What's going on?" Rachel asked. "What news do you have?" Mary's chin trembled, and tears gathered in her eyes. "We're gonna move away." "Moving where?" Pap asked, before Rachel could voice the question. "To Indiana," Uncle Ben said. Rachel looked back at Mary, and Mary gave a slow nod. "It's true." Everyone began to talk at once. "Why are you going to Indiana? How soon do you plan to move? Is your place up for sale? We'll surely miss you." Rachel stood there, too numb to say a word. Mary couldn't be moving. She had been Rachel's friend since they were little. "Oh, what will I do without Mary?" she silently moaned. Pap held up his hand. "We can't all talk at once. Let's ask one question at a time, and then my brother, Ben, can answer our questions." "Why are you moving to Indiana?" Mom asked. "As I'm sure you all know," Uncle Ben looked at Aunt Irma, "my wife's brother, Noah, and his family moved there last year, and Noah bought a dairy farm." Everyone nodded. Uncle Ben smiled. "Noah's dairy business is doing real well, and he asked me to move to Indiana and be his partner." "But you started working at the buggy shop not long ago," Henry said. "Why would you want to quit your new job and move to Indiana?" "I like my job at the buggy shop, but as I'm sure you know, your Dad, and I grew up on a dairy farm. I'm sure I'll enjoy working with the cows on Noah's farm even more," Uncle Ben replied. Hearing that Mary and her family would be leaving was the worst possible news. Rachel bit off the end of her thumbnail and spit it on the ground. She'd been trying to give up her nervous habit of nail biting, but it was hard not to feel anxious about her best friend moving away. "Can't you start a dairy farm right here?" she asked. "Our place here is too small for that," Uncle Ben said. "Can't you buy more land?" Rachel asked. Uncle Ben shook his head. "I'm afraid not. Land here in Lancaster County is getting too expensive, and there's not a lot of land available to buy anymore." Rachel looked up at Aunt Irma, with tears blurring her vision. "Can't Mary stay with us?" Aunt Irma shook her head. "We could never leave any of our children, here. They will come to Indiana with us." Grandpa, who stood beside Rachel, patted the top of her head. "If your folks move somewhere else, wouldn't you want to go with them?" Rachel looked at Mom, Pap, Jacob, Henry, and Grandpa. As much as she liked her home here, she knew if Mom and Pap decided to move, she'd want to go with them. Yes, she said in a near whisper. "I'd want to move too." "What about Grandpa and Grandma Yoder?" Jacob asked. "Who's going to look after